Why therapy does not work for a lot of people. I'll explain to you the challenge that comes along with most therapists and most types of talk therapy and traditional therapy, and why a lot of people get stuck in it. Now, massive disclaimer, it does work to some degree, and it depends on the therapist, because you could have a therapist who actually does the things I'm about to say. But for so many people, I've had hundreds of people message me over the last 10 years, probably thousands if I kept tally, of people who had done therapy for decades and never actually cracked the actual trauma, wound, resentment, the negative energy thing that was causing them to have sabotaging patterns play out in their life. They were beating themselves up, they had guilt, they had shame, they got triggered, whatever the thing is. After years, I'm going to share 2 examples of my clients on this call of someone who was sexually abused for 5 years from her dad, and another person who was labeled as a predator, and he had 45 years of torturing himself, and how I was able to crack it in one session with both of them. So with that being said, stick around. I'm going to share my screen. If you're watching the video, watch the video version. If not, disregard. So before I share my screen, the thing that I am massive on is addressing causes, not symptoms. Most ways of healing that I've seen that don't work long term is they address the symptoms. Now, I'm not here to say anyone intentionally is doing this. Everyone's doing the best of what they have. A lot of people, when they're, quote, trained in the ways that they help people with, they try to help the person with what they're struggling with. As an example, if you're anxious, a lot of people are going to try to help you with the anxiety. That might be through medication, that might be through some meditation, that might be through some breath work, that might be through doing something to relax yourself. That's fantastic. But what if you had something in you, a trauma or a limiting belief, that's causing you to be anxious? You're never addressing the root cause. So the thing that I'm super passionate about, and the reason why I do get fantastic results with people really quickly, is that I address the root cause. I'm definitely there to help someone feel loved and feel safe and feel supported, and I empathize and I connect with my clients. But I'm also very honest, where it's like, let's solve the root cause. Pretend you've got a thorn in your arm, and that thorn is trauma or a limiting belief. Now, to protect the thorn, you build barriers, you build an armor, you build protection. When someone touches it, you get triggered and you deflect and you attack and you try to protect it. That's what people do when they try to solve symptoms. What if you just pull the thorn out? What if you just address the root cause? The symptoms, the triggers, the sabotaging patterns, the self-doubt, the shaming, all the things go away. Crazy concept. Let's address root causes. That's kind of the biggest theme of what I do. So to wrap that up before I share my screen with you, there's a proverb that I don't know who said it, so I want to find the source. If you know the source of this quote, put it in the comments. So I'll paraphrase it, but essentially, when we start our life and our journey, we start off blaming others. Then we grow, we heal, we evolve to a point where we start to blame ourselves. And then we keep healing, keep growing, keep evolving, and we get to a point where we recognize there's no one or nothing to blame. Love that paraphrase. I love that quote, because the challenge that I have with, quote, traditional therapy is what I'm going to show you on my screen right now. I'll come back to these quotes. So down here, this is the challenge I have with most forms of therapy. What they do is they have a victim and predator model. So those aren't the words on your screen. So I'm going to tell you the words if you're watching the screen. And if you just listen, I'll explain it to you. So what therapy does is they put someone in the pit, as in the victim, as in someone was hurt, wronged, badly done. They were victimized. They were fucked over. They had something wrong done to them. Now, that's very human, and that makes sense, and I empathize with that part of things, but you'll hear the challenge of that in a moment. And then they have the predator. They have the victor, the person who actually did the damage to the victim. And this is what fucks people up long term. Let me explain. So, the only problem you have is you think you have a problem. So, if you live in a world of oneness, wholeness, completeness, divine order, divine perfection, that life's always happening for you, not to you, that life is on the way, not in the way, if you have those beliefs that life's always happening for you, then the things that were, quote, wrong happen for a reason. They gave you lessons, they gave you gifts, they gave you strength, they gave you the things that helped you become the person you were born to be. But in the, quote, traditional therapy world, and I keep pre-framing because, again, there are some great therapists out there who actually solve root causes. So I'll stop pre-framing myself. When I use that long-term in this video, you know what I mean. So a lot of therapy, traditional talk therapy, gives the labels of that you're a victim, you were wronged, you were fucked up, you are broken, there's something wrong with you. That is a big fucking issue with inner work, because you create the belief and you reinforce the belief that you're fucked up, that you're broken, that you're wrong, that someone wronged you, and that energetically plays out in a lot of issues. And then the flip side to that, the person who did the trauma stuff is the predator. They're the bad person who fucked up someone else. And then that person ends up shaming themselves for decades. And I've got an example I'm going to share with you in a moment. So that's the challenge I generally have with most conventional views on therapy. Someone is a victim and they're fucked up and they're broken and someone wronged them. And then someone is the predator, the bad person, the person who wrongs someone, who fucks someone else up. Now, I'm a human as well. I empathize with that. That makes sense. Someone, a quote bad person, did something wrong to a nice person. I get that. I can empathize with that. That's why I start with empathy. I don't go straight into the brutal fucking let's balance it out, which I'll get to in a moment. I start with love. Everyone's doing the best of what they have. I love and I hold space and I make this person feel safe and I empathize with that person. But at some point, I then want to address the root cause. So let me then teach you now a bit of stuff around about trauma in general. So this is some of my self-mastery work. If you want to come work with me, I'd love to help you. But this is a quote that I love by Dr. Gabor Mate. He says, "Trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you." Great quote. I've got this quote here from Dr. Sarah Woodhouse. She's got a book called You're Not Broken. It's about trauma therapy. She's a psychologist. Really great book. She says, "Trauma is unprocessed memories." Now, got my favorite mentor, Dr. John Demartini. I'm a Demartini facilitator. I'm a big fan of John Demartini's work. He says, anything you can't say thank you for, be grateful for, or have love for is baggage. Anything you can is fuel. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, or actually I'll come back to this one in a moment. His other quote that I love is, anything you experience outside of love and gratitude is a lopsided perception. So that's what quote trauma is. Now, this is my definition of trauma. Trauma is a moment in time when something was too much or not enough. Something was painful, something was wrong, something was too much or not enough. That's what trauma is. Now, it will be something specific. It will be a character trait. It will be a behavior. It will be an action. It will be an inaction. I'm going to actually show you some of these testimonials to show what's possible from doing the work, and then I'll keep teaching it. So this is one of my clients. Now, she's posted this into my public group, so she's okay with people seeing this. So she's shown it. There's people commenting on it. It's a public post. The other client is not, so I've screenshotted his message, and I've kept the profile anonymous, so you don't see who this person is. Anyways, let's start with this one here. So this client of mine, she was sexually abused from her father for 5 years. Abuser from the ages of 5 to 9. So she did the process, my balancing process, on this person. Now, if you want to read the entire post, pause the video, read the whole thing. It's really beautiful. But with that being said, I'm going to focus on a couple of key points. Listen to what she said. I'm going to read this out for you word for word. To say I love my dad is something I never thought could ever be possible, considering I was bedridden 8 years ago in so much pain. Yes, it's been a tough 30 plus years I've spent in trauma therapy, but I am so full of gratitude writing this in this moment. So what do I mean by that? She went through 30 plus years of quote trauma therapy, traditional therapy, trying to fix what was wrong. But when you actually balance and you see the full perception of things and you balance your mind and you open your gifts, all you will have and all you'll be left with is love and gratitude. Look at John Demartini's quote. Anything you experience outside of love and gratitude is a lopsided perception. That's what she experienced in her quote. You saw it. To say, I love my dad, and to say, I'm so full of gratitude in this moment. So, because once you get to a point, you recognize there's no one to forgive. There's no one was wrong. It was all perfect. It was all divine. Now, that's hard to comprehend until you go through the process. Because when you hear this and you see this, you're like, what the fuck, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I was on that side of the fence as well. Once you do proper healing work, you get this stuff. I'm going to share another little story. So this is a client of mine. Again, I'm keeping this profile anonymous, so you don't know who it is. But listen to this. So context, this client of mine had been labeled as a predator because he did something sexually years and years ago, 45 years ago. And this person has been, I'll read out his quote. Very much appreciated. So I said, thank you for the session. You did so well. Congratulations. They said, very much appreciated. I've tortured myself for 45 years. So 4.5 decades, this person has tortured themselves because of the labels they were given. You are the predator. You are the person who fucks someone else up. You're a bad person. That was the challenge that this person lived with for 45 years. And now I don't have to do that anymore. Never ever thought that could happen. And this was in one session with this client. Pretty magical. So I'm going to come back to the teaching. So when you do proper healing work, I like using this example of a magnet. If I was to give you a magnet and it had a negative charge and a positive charge to it, and I told you, I will give you $1 billion if you give me this magnet back with one side. Just a negative charge or just a positive charge. I'll give you $1 billion if you can do it. You can cut it in half, cut it sideways, try to use some witchcraft. You're never going to do it. It's impossible. This is how, though, people live life. There's a movie, it's called Bruce Almighty. It's got Jim Carrey in it, and it's got Morgan Freeman. And there's a scene in the movie where Morgan Freeman talks to this woman, and this woman's like complaining about something. And Morgan Freeman, who's playing God in this movie, he says to this woman, "When you wish for strength, you don't get given strength. You get given problems and challenges that make you strong. When you wish for love, you don't get given love. You get given people who need love from you. When you wish for patience, you don't get given patience. You get given opportunities to practice and be patient." This is the challenge. The challenge of, again, most types of therapy is they don't get you to see the fullness of what happened. Yes, whatever happened was painful, but what were the gifts to what happened for you? So for me, I got quite traumatized from my dad because I was rejected. I felt unsafe with him. He was emotionally, mentally, physically abusive throughout my family. So I thought that was bad. However, because I've balanced this, I've done my process on this, it has allowed me to see the balance to what he did for me. If it wasn't for my dad, quote, hurting me to the degree that he did, I wouldn't be the healer that I am today. The hurt has gifted me with healing. It's gifted me with empathy. It's gifted me with strength. So this is what, to wrap this up. The reason I'm able to get great results with clients, and the invitation I have for you, is to find what specifically do you think was wrong? What specifically was bad? What specifically, and when I say specifically, you got to find the one-word answer to describe it. So I showed it quickly on my screen before. So you'll see trauma is a specific word. It is a trait, a behavior, an action, or an inaction. Someone did something or didn't do something that was bad, wrong, painful, too much, or not enough. Criticism, manipulation, control, anger, lying, neglecting, rejecting, abandoning. There will be words to describe what they did. And if you think those things are bad, that's where you have a lopsided perception. That's where you think something is wrong and bad, and you perpetuate and continue to loop around in your problems. What if you got to a point where you saw the divine order, you saw how life's always happening for you, not to you, that life is on the way, not in the way, that thing that happened to you happened for you. That pain of rejection taught you how to love yourself. It taught you how to set boundaries. That trauma gave you strength, gave you resilience, gave you grit, and you wouldn't have received those gifts if it wasn't for that person doing exactly what they did for you. That's when you get to a point where, holy shit, life is amazing. You feel amazing. You feel healed. So what I'm going to do, I've actually got my book in front of me, and I'm actually going to read you something. It's from my book. I've got a book, by the way. It's on Amazon. It's called The Inspired Life Method. Go grab yourself a bloody copy, right? So I'm going to read you this. It's on page 194. Let me read this out to you. It was because I was sexually abused and raped that I have so much empathy for people who have experienced that. It was because I was raised poor, had no running water, and was getting whippings that I have such compassion for people who have experienced it. It has given me a broader understanding and a deeper appreciation for every little and big thing that I have now. I am so grateful for my years living in poverty. My story just helped define and shape me, as does everyone's story. Guess who that was? Oprah fucking Winfrey. Billionaire, changed the world, top-rated show, all the things. How did she... Now, do you need to go through trauma to have drive and purpose? No, you don't. Well, everyone has their version of trauma, by the way, but that's a deeper conversation. But everyone has lopsided perceptions. Let me reword that. But she's a very driven woman. She's very determined, and she has such grit and strength and resilience because of the pain that she went through. Greater the pain, greater the purpose, greater the wounds, greater the wisdom. So my invitation for you, if you are doing any form of therapy, any form of healing, if it's working, keep going. I'm not here to fucking bash therapy. I think therapy is good as long as the therapist addresses the root causes and doesn't just solve your symptoms for 30 fucking years. If they're solving root causes and you're not looping in the same patterns, perfect. Keep going. I want you to keep healing. However, if you're not, and you've been doing quote work, you've been working on it, but it still plays out, you still get triggered by the same things, you still have the same reoccurring sabotaging patterns and thoughts and whatever's going on, I don't think you're addressing the root cause. I would invite you to address the root cause and you can have instantaneous transformation. That one of my clients, Kel, who was sexually abused for 5 years, we cracked that in one session and she'd spent over 3 decades trying to crack it through the traditional way. There is nothing wrong with you. You have done nothing wrong. Everything is perfect. Everything has happened for you, not to you. Now, when you do my balancing process, I take you through a 13-question process, 14 questions, where I actually get you to recognize it in your mind and your heart, and then the resistance, the triggers, the guilt, the shame, whatever the negative shit playing out will go away. You won't get triggered by that thing anymore. Literally, it happens that quickly because I'm addressing the root cause. Not because I'm so amazing. Yes, I am amazing, but that's not why I'm good at what I do. I am good at what I do because I just address the root cause and I have the right tools to be able to do that. So I hope that made sense. I hope you got some value from it. If you completely disagree with me, I'm totally okay with that too. I'd love for you guys to comment your thoughts down below. Please share this with a friend. If you got some value, share it to someone else. And if you're interested in working with me, I've got the book. Great way you can work with me. I run in-person events on the Gold Coast if you want to come work with me. And I have a free 7-day trial to my services where you get access to all of my tools on balancing, on trauma, on limiting beliefs, on purpose, all those things. Comes with a free 7-day trial and it comes with a one-on-one call with me included in your free trial. So click the link below if you want to grab that. I appreciate you. Have a beautiful day and I'll speak to you soon. See ya.